Amanda's hands trembled softly on the wheels of her chair. For the first time in years, the tears in her eyes were not from humiliation or loneliness. They were from something she had almost forgotten existed: joy. Gabriel stepped back quietly, as if what he had done was nothing extraordinary. To him, it had been simple. He had seen someone sitting alone, someone everyone else had chosen not to see, and he had followed his heart. But to Amanda, that small act of courage had changed everything. By the next morning, the dance had become the talk of the university. Students shared clips on social media. Groups whispered about it in hallways and cafeterias. Some called it beautiful. Some called it shocking. Others, the same people who had ignored Amanda for months, suddenly began approaching her with forced smiles and false warmth, pretending they had always cared. But Amanda could see the difference now. For years, she had mistaken pity for kindness and politeness for respect. Gabriel had given her something real. He had treated her like she was still worthy of being chosen, and that changed the way she saw herself. Meanwhile, Gabriel returned to his ordinary life. He still worked between classes. He still rushed home to help his mother. He still studied late into the night under the weak light of a rented room. He never imagined that one dance in a glittering ballroom would leave such a deep mark on Amanda's heart. A week later, Amanda found him outside the university library. He was carrying old books in one arm and a worn backpack over his shoulder. He looked surprised when she rolled up beside him. "Thank you," she said softly. Gabriel smiled. "For the dance." Amanda shook her head. "No. For reminding me that I am more than what people see when they look at me." For a moment, Gabriel said nothing. Then he answered in the gentlest voice. "You always were. They just never took the time to notice." Those words stayed with her all day. From then on, they began spending time together. Sometimes it was only a few minutes between classes. Sometimes it was long conversations in the garden courtyard, where Amanda spoke about the silence inside luxurious homes, and Gabriel spoke about the dignity hidden inside struggle. They came from different worlds, but somehow, with each conversation, the distance between those worlds began to disappear. For the first time, Amanda met someone who saw her soul before her surname. For the first time, Gabriel met someone who looked beyond his poverty, and saw his intelligence, his discipline, and his heart. But peace never lasts long in a world ruled by status. One evening, Esteban Morales saw them together from the window of his black car. Amanda was laughing, really laughing, and Gabriel was beside her, speaking with the calm honesty that rich men often mistrust. Esteban's expression hardened immediately. That night, he called Amanda into his study. The room was cold, elegant, and silent, filled with dark wood, expensive art, and the scent of power. Esteban stood by the fireplace. "You will stay away from that boy," he said. Amanda lifted her chin. "Why?" "Because he does not belong in your world." For a moment, the room felt smaller. Then Amanda looked straight at him and answered with a quiet strength he had never heard from her before. "Maybe, father. The problem is that your world has never known how to make room for people with real hearts." Esteban's jaw tightened. The next day, he summoned Gabriel to his office at the top of the tallest building in the city. Gabriel entered wearing his cleanest shirt, but nothing about him fit that place of glass walls, marble floors, and polished silence. Esteban remained seated behind a massive desk, studying him like a business problem. "I will be direct," Esteban said. "You are a bright young man. I can offer you money, a position in one of my companies, a future your family could only dream of. All you need to do is stay away from Amanda." The words hung in the air like a test. Gabriel lowered his eyes for a moment, not out of fear, but to gather his thoughts. Then he looked up and spoke with quiet dignity. "Sir, I did not walk toward Amanda because of her father's fortune, and I will not walk away from her because of it either." Esteban's face darkened. Gabriel continued, his voice respectful but firm. "You have spent your life believing everything has a price. That is why it is so hard for you to understand something that comes from the heart." For the first time in years, Esteban had no immediate reply. Gabriel left the office with nothing in his hands, no money, no contract, no protection. But he walked out with something far greater, his dignity intact. That evening, Amanda learned what had happened. Her heart broke, but not because Gabriel had been humiliated. It broke because she realized how deeply her father feared a kind of man he could never control. The following night, Esteban hosted an enormous charity gala. The city's elite arrived in diamonds and tailored suits. Politicians, executives, and socialites filled the grand hall. Beneath crystal chandeliers, cameras flashed, glasses clinked. Everything looked perfect. Then, in the middle of Esteban's speech, Amanda moved her wheelchair forward and asked for the microphone. The room fell silent. Esteban stared at her in shock as she turned toward the crowd. "All my life," Amanda began, "people have introduced me in only two ways: as the daughter of a billionaire, or as the girl in the wheelchair." No one moved. But neither of those things tells you who I am." Her voice trembled, but only slightly. "A few nights ago, in a room full of powerful people, one person chose to see me not as a burden, not as a symbol, not as a tragedy, but simply as a woman worthy of being asked to dance." Across the room, Gabriel stood frozen. Amanda looked at him, and her eyes glistened. That night, everyone in that hall had wealth. Only one person had humanity. The silence that followed was deeper than any applause. Then someone began to clap. Another followed. Within seconds, the entire room was on its feet. Esteban stood still, surrounded by the very people who had admired him for years. Yet in that moment, he felt smaller than he ever had before. Everything he had built suddenly seemed fragile beside the simple truth his daughter had spoken. After the gala, he found Gabriel standing alone near the terrace. This time, Esteban did not look at him with contempt. He looked at him like a man confronting his own failure. "I spent my life building an empire," Esteban said quietly. "But I could not give my daughter what you gave her in a single evening." Gabriel said nothing. Esteban's eyes drifted toward Amanda, who was smiling in the distance, the kind of smile he had not seen on her face since before the accident. And in that moment, he understood something no boardroom had ever taught him. Power can command attention. Money can buy comfort. Status can force respect. But only love, dignity, and compassion can heal a wounded soul. In the months that followed, Amanda convinced her father to create a foundation for students who had talent but no financial opportunity. She also demanded major accessibility changes at the university so that no student would ever again feel hidden. And when the foundation needed someone to lead its first student program, Amanda chose Gabriel. Not because she wanted to rescue him, but because she believed in him. Together, they became more than a story people whispered about after a dance. They became a symbol of something far rarer than wealth, the courage to recognize another person's worth, even when the world refuses to. And the dance that began in silence did not end when the music stopped. It became the first step in a story that would change all of their lives forever.